I'm Elliot. Um, I went here, graduated in '99, and um, and I think you may have heard the idea that um, maybe you meet your husband, wife, life partner in college. And anybody heard that? What about what about the idea that like what you do outside the classroom is as important as inside it? Yeah, so both of those are true for me. Um, I've been helping students since I was one. I've been in student government in high school and college, in grad school, and uh, as an undergrad here, I was on the architecture school council, and it was really about understanding what my fellow students needed and like being an advocate for them with the administration. And then at MIT in grad school, it was kind of an interesting time because there was a new dean. There was a lot of change, and the student government kind of got together and said like, hey, there's some things we could do better. And we did like a town hall meeting, and we did a survey, and we came up with all these ideas, and we went to the dean, and she was awesome. She's like, let's do all of these things. So we actually doubled the salaries of TAs because we realized that we were making half what they were in other departments. And we made thesis the kind of final project. Instead of this kind of like afterthought, we made it like a big celebration where everybody could go. There was like a show exhibiting the projects. We adjusted the schedule of classes so that we could better cross enroll, and it was really an amazing experience. Also amazing because one of the key people I was doing that with is now my wife. So we met in the studio one Friday night, and hit it off, and that was almost 20 years ago. And now we have two kids. Theo is almost 6, and Nora is almost 9. So um, I got a lot out of college. I got a lot out of what I did outside of the classroom, what I did in it, the people I met, and the places I went. And I'm excited to share that with you because a lot of what I learned doing that project, talking to students, comparing us to others, doing town hall meetings, figuring out what was working, what isn't. I didn't know it at the time, but that became my job. So after I graduated, I went into consulting for colleges. Since then, I've worked for more than 100 of them. This is actually only like 80. They don't all fit. But in doing that, I learned a lot about how college works and how students can make it work for them. I wrote that down in how to get the most out of college because I thought I've been working with all these colleges, helping them improve their student experience, understanding students and what their needs are and how they're changing, how to create better spaces, better support services, better technology. And I thought students and families could really benefit from that. I think college is more complicated, it's more costly, and people really need like an insider's guide to making it work for them. So that's really my goal, is to help you make college work for you, so you get the most out of it, so you can capitalize and take advantage on all the great things that are offered, whether it's thriving in your classes or finding support, feeling supported, building relationships. You feel like you're part of a community like this community, using technology, enjoying the campus, exploring career paths, finding those connections between your courses, your clubs, your careers, because I think eventually, early on you're trying lots of different things, but eventually they come together and they point a way forward for a path that you can make progress on. I want to talk a little bit about the big idea in the book, and I think you all got a copy. Well, the big idea is it's not just where, but how you go to college, and it's the decisions you make every day that really determine your success, right? Like which class to take, what research to do, who to live with, how to find your path, how to declare your major. And the really interesting thing is a lot of these decisions you don't have to guess at because there's really good research, there's really good data to guide you. Some of them are small decisions, but each of them mean that you're the designer of your college experience, right? Like by setting goals, trying things out, understanding yourself. Those are really, if I think about design at its essence, it's about understanding people, making connections between things and trying things out, not, even though it's scary, like not being afraid to fail, knowing that you're going to learn from it. No product hits the market without lots of testing before, right? Your phone, your sneaker, your water bottle. There are like prototypes, there's tests. The first one leaks, the second one shatters. And that's the way it is in college, in careers, in your courses, in your clubs. So you're trying things out, you're learning from them, and you're going from there. That's one of these areas of research that can really help you make the right choices, or make the right choices for you to get the most out of college. And I thought I'd share 11 of these ideas. One of the first things, your belonging was off the charts, which is great. Like that was so great to see that so many of you feel like you're part of a community. For a lot of students, that doesn't happen right away, and in fact, nationally, only about 2/3 of students feel like they belong at their university. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. You get one bad grade and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not cut out for this. I should be doing something different. Do I really belong here? And yes, you do. But I think like being patient is so important, and understanding that it's kind of normal to not always feel that way, and that it's kind of temporary and normal is really helpful. I think the other thing that there's really good research on is that sometimes students, especially in their first year, sometimes you come into college and there are like roles that feel familiar and safe for you, like in a group or like on a project. And sometimes those roles can be limiting. And there's a great book called The Cost of Inclusion that talks about how sometimes, especially first year students, will adopt like a cookie cutter like persona or identity, like, oh, I'm the manager, or I'm the entertainer, or I'm the support, or the caregiver, or the follower. And you adopt those roles in a group, and sometimes to your detriment. So like you end up taking notes, right, in your group project, and then like you're so busy taking the notes, like you forget to contribute your ideas. That's like the classic, that's the classic one. So being the real you, not worrying about like adopting that cookie cutter persona, and finding groups that accept you for who you are, I think is so critical. Like a lot of times people talk about fitting in, but fitting in, I think is like a terrible metaphor, right? Because that's like, you don't want to have to change who you are to belong to a group, right? You want one that accepts you for who you are. And I think whether it's your classes, your clubs, where you live, the professors you're working with, like finding the people that will support you, that will help you grow. Like if something goes wrong, like who are you going to turn to? Your advisor, your friend, your RA. That's really like a critical part of succeeding in college and beyond. And usually it's good to think about it in like three ways. You've got like peers. So you've got, friends, they might be in the same dorm, taking the same classes. Then people that are kind of like one level up, like your RA or a teaching assistant or you were in a peer mentoring program. That's kind of like the next tier of support network. And then the third tier is more like your professional network. So that might be like your advisor or professors. But if you think about like, okay, who would I turn to when I need advice or in a crisis? And you have the friends, you have the advisors, you have the kind of like the professionals that can really serve you well. And I think once you have that, then not being afraid to ask for help is really useful. And I know that's hard because sometimes it doesn't always, that doesn't always feel good to admit you don't know something, or that you need help, or you're struggling. But the great thing about colleges is they have literally thousands of people that are here to help you and who are like here for the mission. They're like here for you. They like want to help you at the counseling center, in the library, at the IT help desk, um, at the advising center. We talked about second floor of Clemens. So don't be afraid to ask for help. It's normal to ask for help. Like, I don't know, like sometimes people for going to the writing center. How many people have like gone to the writing center and gotten help? Awesome. And the first time I was kind of like, when I was a student here, I went to the writing center, and at first I was like, does this mean I can't write very well? And then it was super helpful because I was getting all this advice on how to write better. And I I still remember some of the things that, how to make transitions, how to clarify a thesis. Like, it was awesome. So don't hold back when it comes to getting help. And I think part of what that support network, what that help can do, is it can teach you about these hidden things, these implicit things about college that aren't always clear. Like, Casey, when you came in, you were saying you went to office hours, and I asked, like, did you know what those were? Because I didn't when I got to college. Fortunately, you already knew, but there's a lot of stuff. How many people knew what office hours meant before you got to college? So a few people, well, half. So career services, that's like a whole building full of people that would love to help you on this kind of stuff. That's like what they're there for, like setting up your LinkedIn profile, getting you on Handshake. How many of you heard of Handshake? Okay, that's good. Nicely done. But yeah, cover letters, and so yeah, it's just it's an example of things are hiding behind jargon, tradition, whatever it might be, and you got to knock on the door, and there's definitely people that are excited to help you. I run a national student survey, student experience survey, and working in groups nationally is the thing that students are least satisfied with. I think 43% of students are satisfied with their group work. I think a lot of what happens is professors assign group work, and some of them are really good about providing some structure, like having a leader, but other times it's just kind of a free-for-all. So putting the time in early to like get to know each other, talk about who's going to do what, like how people like to work, when you can work together, where you're going to put your files, what technology you're going to use, what the deadlines are, what the interim deadlines are, all those kinds of things, I think pays huge dividends. Working with professors is also, we were talking about this earlier, is a great benefit. It's a way to like build a relationship. It's a way to maybe apply something from a class, in the lab or in life. But working with your professors, I think, is also great because you're getting to apply things, you're getting to learn things, you're building a relationship. Maybe they become a mentor. Maybe you realize like you want to be a chemist, or you want to be a physicist, or you want to be an economist going forward. I think, and where you can do your class projects with some kind of real world impact, I think just makes them so much better because you get, it's more fulfilling. You're actually doing something, but it's also, and you're, of course, you're building skills like how to present, how to analyze data, how to work in groups, how to communicate. But even more so, you're building relationships. Like, let's say you're taking a marketing class. You could come up with like a social media campaign for a fictitious company, or you could like go find a nonprofit in the community, right, that needs that, or a local company, local startup. When you do that, then you have to talk to real people, like you did with the finance folks, and hear from them. You get good at interviewing, right? And maybe they need an intern this summer, or maybe they become a role model. So those chances to apply things, I think you can just get so much more out of them. And whether it's that real world project that leads to an internship, or your work with a professor, finding a mentor also pays huge dividends. Someone you can go to for advice on a career, on your major. A lot of you are going to be thinking about a major. And a mentor is one of the most impactful things you can do. There's a great study. How many people have heard the polling organization Gallup? That you've heard Gallup polls, yeah? So they do a ton of research, and one thing they did, they partnered with Purdue University a few years ago, and they surveyed tons of people about what did you do in college and how happy are you at work afterwards. And one of the biggest impacts was having a mentor. So someone who could like encourage you, pursue your, help you pursue your dreams. People that have mentors are twice as likely to be engaged at work, to like their job, to be committed to it, to be enthusiastic about it. They're twice as likely to think their education was worth the cost. And so I think mentors, just like real world projects, internships, these are also things that study showed to have a real impact. I think the other thing is to try and I talked about this a little bit earlier. I kind of did this in the opposite. I was super focused my first few years and then branched out. I spent all my time in the architecture school and then finally ventured out of the studio and learned about all the other amazing things that were happening. For me, my best class was a literature or an English class called Collage, which was all about collage as a way of thinking, like a literary and cultural medium. And we studied all these different poets and land artists and Picasso and Braque, and pushed me in all kinds of different ways. And in fact, it still has maybe the most memorable class that I took was we came in one day, we're in class, the professor, whose name was Tan Lin, he came in and he said, okay, take out a piece of paper and write a story that reads like a landscape, and then turn it over and write a landscape that reads like a story. And then he left the room. And nobody knew what that meant at all. So it was what you might call a stretch assignment, where we all had to think through, what could that mean? What is a story that reads like a landscape, and what is a landscape that reads like a story? And then he came back in half an hour, and we read them, and everybody had totally different takes, and it was amazing. And so if you can do that exploration early, and then narrow in on the clubs, the classes, the community that's really getting you excited, it's getting you energized, where you're finding inspiration, that can really be a great way to focus. It doesn't always happen along a linear path, but explore early. Think of it as like a kind of a funnel of different opportunities or careers or interests. If you can narrow over time, that can really help. And that can also help you lead something, right? Which is a great way to learn about yourself. You can't really lead others until you really understand yourself, till you kind of get your own shit together. At least that's what I've learned. And it allows you to have a greater impact, right? To have like a multiplier effect, to get the best out of yourself and others, to accomplish something together. And it's a great way to make a contribution. It's also a super valuable skill, which all of you know. What you may not know is there's this great study that students that played a leadership role in college get a 7% salary premium after graduation. So do it for everybody else, but also reap some benefit yourself. And as you do that, we talked a little bit earlier about there's going to be setbacks, there's going to be failures. You learn along the way. But everything, if you think about everything as a test, everything is a prototype that you can learn from. That really helps you stay focused, helps you bounce back, helps you learn, helps you grow. And there's different ways to embrace this. One of my favorite kind of hacks for growth mindset is the word yet. So like you can say, I don't know how to do that, or you can say, I don't know how to do that yet. And it makes a huge difference, right? Because one is like things are fixed and you almost like you have no choice. But once you say, I don't know how to do that yet, and it's just that you haven't had a chance, or you need more practice, you got to talk to the right people, and that can make a huge difference.